So who's used a squat toilet? Hands up. Wow. So they suck. They're awful. They're the worst things. For those uninitiated, a squat toilet is like our toilets, but instead of a toilet, it's just a hole in the ground. And so you are supposed to walk up to the toilet and take off your drawers and then squat like this. At the back, I'm squatting because you can't see me. And then you're supposed to poop. It's very hard for a Westerner because we're used to a better system. And our muscles aren't developed down there. And so you're sitting there, you're squatting away, and it's not good. Especially there's like a Chinese man beside you, and he's squatting, and he's shitting, and he's smoking, and he's laughing at you. Which is the trouble with traveling in general, because you go to these foreign places, and you're privileged, and you have money to do and all that shit, and then you can't shit. But you're conflicted in your heart, you know? You want to be this person who can go anywhere and just experience it and just soak it up and take a shit in any circumstance possible. So I went to China and I didn't shit a lot. My host, my dear friend Ellie and his wife Kelly, they had a Western toilet, God bless them, so I just held it in. Until the third week we went to Tibet, which was a really amazing experience. It's supposed to be. But there was no lead up to it. They're just like, do you want to go to Tibet? And I was like, yeah, okay. Because why wouldn't you go to Tibet? I'd be an asshole if I didn't go to Tibet. So I went to Tibet. And so I found myself on a horse in Tibetan foothills, which are still giant mountains. And then you had the Himalayas, like majestic and all that shit. And I really, really tried to enjoy it. But I didn't very much. And this story is about how I didn't enjoy it. So I'm on a horsey in the mountains, cruising along. And in my head, I was on a mountain on a horse, and I'd listened to Fleetwood Mac's secondhand news, just just giving her whatever. Instead, I'm on a horse on a very short precipice, and it's not a precipice on a mountain; it's like a precipice on a hill. So I would die, but I would roll down and just kind of hang out for a while. And there's no ambulance or anything, so I would just die painfully and slowly, not cool, like a falcon wouldn't eat me or some shit like that. And so we're cruising around, and so the first 2 hours I'm like, okay, I'm used to this. This is terrifying, but I'll get used to it because it's a horse. People ride horses all the time. These guides who are Tibetan obviously know how to ride horses, and they know I won't die. And then the horse fell the first time. And so being the brave adventurer, I got back on the horse. And then it fell again, and again, and again, and again, and again. The best part is when we were going over a creek, and the guys were like, come on. And I was like, no, it's going to fall in this creek. Obviously it's going to fall. Of course, this is not in English because they speak Tibetan. I don't speak Tibetan. Kelly, who was Chinese, didn't speak Tibetan. They didn't speak Chinese. And so it was more like me going like this and them laughing at me. And so they throw me over the thing, and I fall into the creek. And this continues all day. I'm miserable, but I'm like, I don't want to feel miserable because this is a good experience, whatever. And so we come across some other Tibetans. I'm like, okay, good. This is a good learning experience. We'll sit, we'll break bread or yak barley shit. This will be good. And so we meet them. They're fascinated with me. They want to rub my arm because I have hair, as you can see here. They don't have hairy arms there, so I'm like, oh, cool. I'm a man in Tibet. And so they're looking at me, and they're like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then the guy just telling the story. I'm like, this story is about me because everyone's looking at me. And then finally, and then he paused and he goes, and they stopped feeling my arm. And then so we head to camp, and I'm like, we get off the horses. I'm like, whoo, okay, cool. And it's this cool tent, National Geographic shit. This is it. This is my experience. This is fucking Tibet. And so we go inside, and there's these old people. I don't know. They could be 100. They could be 70. Just leather-faced. Didn't look like any race or nationality because they're so old. They belong to the nation of being old. And so we sit down, and they give us this yak milk butter tea, which is tea made from yak milk, which is exotic. Tastes like shit, but it's exotic. And so we're breaking bread again, this bad barley, and like exchanging like nods and smiles because we don't speak the same language, but like it's a moment. So I'm like, finally, this is great. And then there's this thing called altitude sickness, which exists. If you go really high up, you get sick, which doesn't make sense. That's not in any movies. And so I get this wave of nausea and a headache, and like I'm trying to stay in my squat, but you're also not supposed to show your heels for some reason, or the flats of your foot for some reason. Someone told me once, so I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to stay so badly. I also wanted to go puke a lot. And the floor was dirt, so I couldn't just like puke in their house, because how do you clean dirt? I guess with a shovel, but I didn't see any shovels. And so I was conflicted, and then they had me another, like the 8th glass of yak milk butter tea, and I tried to sip, and I'm like, nope. So I go back to my tent, and I just lay there for about 2 hours, misery, and then I read a Robertson Davies book and went to sleep. So the second day is more the same, except the hills have like these rocks on it, and so my horse is just not ever on his feet at all. And then also when you're closer to the sun, you get more sunburned. But it was cold, so like, why would you get sunburned? But you get sunburned. And so we just roamed around on these horses, and like this, I'm trying to enjoy this, but there's mountains and hawks, I think, or something, I don't know. Getting more burnt. And you also can't smoke there. Not because it's taboo, because like the altitude's too high and like it just feels like shit. And so you can't relax. And so another hellish day that I wanted to enjoy, but I couldn't. And then the night we set up camp, I'm like, okay, we're stable again. And these kids come up, and like these really cool, like classic Tibetan kids, like those sunburnt rosy cheeks, and they're shy, they come up to you, and then run away. And they have like those Mickey Mouse t-shirts you see in like the movies, and like it's like, okay, this is it. And then I look behind me, and I see the camp for the first night, and I realize we just got in the big hellish circle the whole day, and I saw the same thing all day, and I got disappointed. Second night I got super sick again, and it rained. There was like this cool lightning storm, so I'm like, I should look at this lightning storm in these mountains. I can have a moment, and I can tell people later in like a bar or something. And so I poke my head out and get soaked, and poke my head in like, yoo, and then poke my head out and read Robertson Davies. And then third day I woke up. I felt like I was hungover, but I wasn't like drunk, because I was just dehydrated, I guess. And we continue on. Same shit. And so that night we make a camp again. And then finally I'm like, dudes, this sucks, right? To my companions. And they're like, yeah, this is awful. This is so bad. It's like, can we go home early? And they're like, yeah, we just won't tell anybody. And I felt great. It was the first time in my life, or in this trip rather, that I just was like, yes, I can relax, I can enjoy it. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a shit. And so I walked around, and I found this gopher hole. I don't know if it's a gopher. I'm not familiar with the mammals that are in the research, or none since, so I'm assuming it's a gopher hole. And so I put my drawers down, covered up, squatted, and just waited patiently, looked at the view, and I felt at peace, and then I went. And then I didn't have any toilet paper. Good night.